was just a development from the Wright brothers, from the airplane, but I don't think that was as big a step as the development of transistor. You know, the vacuum tubes weren't that dependable.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the television sets nowadays very seldom require service, whereas you just replace the whole circuit board. Yeah.
So, how did the two of you meet?
Pardon me?
How did the two of you meet?
Oh, at a party, I think. You know, we used to go to parties. In those days, you didn't have any money to take your dates out or anything. All the dating was done at parties. We used to have parties. Matter of fact, we made a club that was called the Frolickers.
Frolickers.
Frolickers Club, and we went by Robert's Rules of Order, and very strict. And we had meetings and kept minutes, and then we go in the closets with the women and Nick.
I didn't go to that party.
No, you weren't in that. That was before Grandma's time. But you know, it was very harmless necking, really.
So, do you remember whose house the party was at? Where you met?
Yes, it was at Pauline's.
Oh, that's
Pauline
that's where I
Hassan.
met you, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Grandma had a boyfriend, Benny. That she was vacillating between me and Benny.
Who
Did you vacillate?
is that right, Grandma? Grandma? Who was Benny?
He was a fellow that I met at a party, but not. Obviously, it wasn't the party
I
that we
never
met.
I never met this Benny.
Uh-huh.
No, this was prior.
Were you dating Benny and Grandpa at the same time?
Mm-hmm.
For how long?
Quite a little while.
We were dating
I
for
mean,
almost a year, didn't we?
Oh, more than a year.
At the same time? Both of them?
Once we got engaged, I stopped dating.
Uh-huh.
I think we got formally engaged, and we never got a ring.
But we had decided in January that we'd get married in June.
That was after I drove you off the cliff.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was in September.
Do you know that story?
Yeah, I think so.
All right,
Yeah.
tell that story real quickly.
Oh, I had a Model A Ford with a rumble seat. I did have a rumble seat, didn't I? My Ford.
I don't
remember.
know. No, I
Anyhow,
don't think
we
yours
were
did.
up in the Mulholland Hills, petting, and I was coming down there, and I took around the curve too fast, and there was a berm on the side. My wheel hit the berm, and I tipped over and landed on all four wheels about 10 feet down.
Oh, more than that.
I don't
At
know.
30 feet.
Honey, with 30 feet would have been an next drop. This
No, 30 feet was when we
we wouldn't have
dropped.
survived more than 10 feet.
I don't know.
Anyhow,
Then there was another
Yeah.
to the main highway.
anyhow, and then there was some more down below, and some people driving by heard me or saw that.
Honey, do you
they,
remember how that
They
happened?
sent the police up.
No, but we had to climb up to the road.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would not have seen us ever.
Maybe so. Okay.
Well, that's what you said.
Okay.
I like the way he says it. That's when I drove you off the cliff.
Right. He said, didn't you say, if you don't go
Yeah.
up the hill, they'll never see us?
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah. Anyhow, and the police came and they took me and Francie to a emergency, didn't they?
They took us to the hospital.
Yeah. And
You had nothing wrong with you.
no, there's nothing wrong with you either, but you complained a lot.
I broke my shoulder. I had broken ribs.
Oh my.
Honey.
I did. They said to me, if you don't take me home, I'm going into shock. And so it's either stay in the hospital or go home. And you took me with a
I
cab.
know we landed in Poison Oak. We
Well,
got Poison
that
Oak.
was right after that. We
Yeah.
got poison oak.
Anyhow, I got a taxi, took Grandma home. I had just enough money to get her home, but not enough money. This was about 3 o'clock in the morning already. Just not enough for me, so after I dropped her off, of course my car was down there, and it was wrecked, and I had to walk home. And the next day, I guess I had the car towed away. I don't know what the police asked me to have it
No,
towed.
it had to be demolished. It was demolished anyway.
It landed on
so-
all four wheels, though. But then I
Yeah,
didn't
but it
have a
was all
car
gone.
anymore.
So what they decided to do is they wouldn't give us any money for the car,
Mm-hmm.
but they would tow it away free. So that's what they did.
That's a
But
consolation.
you know, the interesting thing was, it wasn't devastating for me at the time.
How did you get the car?
You felt real bad because you didn't have a car.
Yeah, well, I think.
That was devastating.
You
well,
was
but
that
not-
from your jobs as repairing radio repair?
I think so. I think the Model A Ford was only $25 used. They weren't very expensive in those days. I don't know, they weren't much. And you know, my brother had a Model A Ford, and he loaned it to us for our honeymoon up at Lake Arrowhead.
Mm.
Well, tell me about your wedding and your honeymoon.
The wedding was awful. No one should have a wedding like this.
Well,
What was
let's
so
hear.
awful?
But it
was nothing.
lasted. It
Huh?
worked.
That's right.
It lasted. Worked.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what happened. When my told my father was getting married. My father was so excited about that it was somebody Jewish because he
Right.
was sure I was going to marry a Jew. So he said, would I mind if he tells the rabbi and we have the ceremony at the temple? He would like that. So I said, oh, sure. We weren't inviting anybody. You know, we had very little family then.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Jenny made the reception though.
no, she didn't.
Huh?
No, she didn't.
After her house?
So what happened was that my father told the congregation that we were getting married. And so he told the rabbi told the congregation to be invited. Well, the whole place was full of people that I never had seen before. And the only people that was there was
Brothers.
my brothers
And
and my sister.
Yeah,
Oh, and I don't know where your mother was. I don't remember her being there.
I don't.
Auntie
I'm sure she
Mala
must
and
have been.
Auntie Lizzie.
I'm sure she was there. I don't remember.
What about your brothers?
My brothers came.
No, Grandpa's brothers.
I don't remember. Whether I guess they
I
were
don't
there.
remember them being
No.
there. Anyway, it was like just a wedding of sorts. Oh, anyway, we had it at the temple, and the rabbis staying on the platform,
Uh huh.
and it was an Orthodox place, and then I walked down. I had a suit made. It was like a cape
We have a picture.
and
somewhere, don't we?
Yeah.
and a short
You've seen the
dress.
picture?
and it was because I thought I could use it all the time. It was not a wedding at all.
Right.
And of course you saw Grandpa with the hat.
Yeah.
And so anyway, we walked down, and I wore a hat too. And then we get up there, and
Wait till the clock finishes. We're gonna do 4. It's 4 o'clock.
Grandpa was on one side, and I was, and Sammy was on the other. Don't ask why my brother would be there instead of my father. But anyway, they were both shaking, and I was going like this with my hands, and I was laughing.
Yeah, you try
And
not
so-
to laugh.
And so the rabbi says, if you don't take this serious, you can't go on with the ceremony. So I'm not going to perform this wedding. And it was so hysterical with both these arms going like this, and I was trying not to laugh. It was so difficult.
Anyhow, right after the ceremony, instead of going to Jenny's house, honey, Jenny had people at her house. I remember
Who?
that. Huh?
Who did
After
you?
the ceremony.
Your mother made a reception when we came back.
I know, but right after the ceremony, Jenny had some. You ask Jenny if you want to.
All right.
Anyhow, we didn't wait around for the reception. We just got in the car and drove up to
That's what I remember. That we
Yeah.
just went up to Arrowhead,
Arrowhead, and
and Grandpa didn't have a job, and I had, and we had $25
I remember that.
for because Sammy gave us $25 for a wedding gift,
Is that where we got it from?
and so we had the $25, and that paid for our Arrowhead for a week. And we didn't worry about what's going to happen when we got home.
Well, what did happen?
Well, so you had $25 total
week.
to your name.
Yeah.
So we
that's right.
paid that's what it cost, $25. So
That's at what cost?
Arrowhead,
The whole
week.
the honeymoon.
yeah, the week.
We must have money for food or something.
But we fished. Remember,
Yeah, I know we
we
fished.
fished and we had
Got bluegills.
bluegills until bluegills coming out.
But it was fine. Everybody up there knew we were newlyweds.
And then we came back, and I said about you. There's no problem. You'll get a job. But it was very difficult at times. Very difficult to get a job. But I was working, and
What were you doing?
but I was living with my mother-in-law, and then Grandpa worked very
My
shortly.
mother-in-law is my mother.
Yeah.
I lived with mother-in-law for 3 months
Yeah.
until we couldn't live there anymore. No, I guess 6 months, because I was pregnant about 3 months when we told her that
You had to move.
because I was very sick.
Did you get pregnant right away?
3 months
About
later,
3 months. Yeah. It did take
I
time.
wanted to get pregnant. I wanted to get out of the house,
Yeah.
and I always wanted to have a baby.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so I was very happy about
Anyhow, I
getting
got-
pregnant. Of course, I wasn't happy about being sick.
I got a job working for 2 different radio stores. In the morning, they worked for one. In the afternoon, another one at $12.50 a week each. So I was making $25 a week, which was fine. We could manage fine on that at those days. And I had a car, an old Hupmobile.
What's it called?
Hupmobile. And
We've had parked it on a
with
hill.
with wooden spokes that clanked as you and it would never start in the morning except if I kept it on a hill. So I always kept it on a hill in the morning so I could then roll down the hill and start. Then it was fine all day long. And of course, if I'd known enough, I would realize that it was just that moisture on the ignition wires. If I got new ignition wires or dried them out, it wouldn't start it. But I didn't know enough about cars in those days. Anyhow, that's how I got from one job to the next. And we managed.
And
And
when,
it worked.
and when did you become rich?
Rich. we made some very poor, what people would say were stupid investments, because we took a chance on people. And when we sold our business, which we didn't make any money on really, because we sold it just the merchandise, because Grandpa was very anxious to get out of the store, and the children were so cooperative because Linda had already married, and Steve was just getting ready to get married. So
Grandpa, why were you eager to sell the store?
I just didn't like going down every morning and seeing all the headaches that my help had. If I didn't have to have help, it would have been fine. I got along fine with the customers and I enjoyed servicing the TVs. But my help, I was very naive about hiring people. I never got references or anything. And so I had a lot of flakes working for me. I had one fellow working for me, his name was Ed. And one weekend, he went up to the mountains and was skiing or something, came back with a broken leg, but he continued to work for me in a wheelchair. And he did fine, but he was completely dishonest. He owed money to everybody. He bought bicycles for his kids and didn't pay for them, and keep getting telephone calls at the store about that. And what he would do, a customer would come in and buy a television set and say they'll pay cash. And he says, fine, he says, but would you do me a favor? I'm going to put it on a contract and I'll make the payments, but then I could use the money. Well, I didn't know that, you know. So he kept the money and and he was supposed to make the payments. And of course, after I had to fire him, he didn't make the payments and I had to And I called up these people, they explained what happened, so I made the payments,
Oh.
paid them off.
Well, you know what happened is the police took him away. Don't you remember? It wasn't us.
Yeah,
It was the police took him away because he had done something that was so totally
Yeah.
illogical.
yeah.
And-
He had a wonderful personality, a very good salesman, but he'd give away stuff, give away the tables and put up antennas for people at no charge to sell the television set because he made a commission.
And meanwhile, our store was being robbed
So where were you guys living when you sold the store?
Oh,
in Brentwood,
In Brentwood,
Where in Brentwood?
up in the, up
Hanley.
in Hanley, up in the hills where you could see the ocean from our house. We had a wonderful house up there. You don't remember that house?
So how old were you when you sold the store?
About 45,
44?
45, 44, yeah.
And that was it. Stopped working.
Yeah. And this investment we made was, I put in $40,000 in a hospital that was being built in Los Gatos. And I became a limited partner. And it turned out that 40,000 turned out to what, be 200,000?
300.
300,000.
Did you investigate the investment before you did it?
That was the illogical part.
Yeah.
He first needed 10,000, so we gave him 10,000. He paid it back with interest, a shorter time than necessary, but he paid it in full. So we felt confident. So when he felt that he could use the 40,000, we were glad to give it to him because we had already had this idea that he's very honest. But then after we did it, we had to wait a couple of years, and we were not sure about our investment at all.
Anyhow, it worked out.
But it worked
Yeah.
out.
Well, what advice do you have for a successful business?
Not me, I'm not the one to give advice.
Why not?
I'll tell
You
you,
had a successful
I was
business.
successful in my business because I was a very good technician. I did service for a lot of dealers around town. They'd bring in their TV sets, I'd fix any TV set they brought in for $5 plus parts. And I'd make service calls on the way home. And
You were a hard worker,
yeah, and
but
we-
but he
the
did-
business prospered. I did very well in the business because I was a good technician, not because of the. And I had some good ideas. For instance, I found I could buy some 10-inch television sets from Philco, an RCA, very inexpensive because the 16 inches were coming out. So I bought them by the hundreds, and I converted them to 16-inch. I had a fellow come in and help me. We rebuilt the cabinets, converted to 16, and I sold them like hotcakes. So I did very good on that, and I did very well. And
Well, what advice do you have for a successful marriage?
yes, dear.
Grandma? She's saying, yes, dear, what's your advice?
my advice is marry someone that will say yes, dear.
I'll tell you, David, I can't get over how fortunate I am to have Francie and have such a wonderful family.
Nor I.
That's nice.
Even though we don't agree on how much to serve when she makes a dinner party and how many things to make and how many hors d'oeuvres to serve.
Let me guess. You want there to be more food.
Well, your mother's the same way, though.
I guess most women are.
Yeah, they should be.
Do you?
I'd rather have that than the other way.
That's right.
So, Grandma, you were pregnant 3 months after you got married.
Just
Mhm.
about, yeah.
Yeah, so it'd be legal.
Do you think it's wise for people to have sex before they get married?
I can't
And
say
I
wrong
think
with it
that,
now.
I think that it depends on the individual. Some people would feel wrong about it. They shouldn't. Some people feel it would be all right, and there's no reason not to.
Uh-huh.
So it really is up to the individual, don't you think?
But in those days, it was completely
It was what?
It was only
Verboten.
it was only the bad girls that did.
Yeah. Yeah. There was no way I could convince Grandma.
And you tried?
No,
Not real hard, no.
no,
No.
no. It really,
You were a gentleman.
it would
Yeah.
really not the kind of thing that you would do.
Yeah.
Do you believe in love at first sight?
Well, I think so. I think that's what happened with me anyhow.
Oh,
And you heard that Grandma was dating Benny.
I didn't hear that.
Yeah, Grandma was dating Benny up until they got engaged.
Oh my goodness.
Now,
I
how,
can
how did
arrange dates very well. I used to do that all the time. I would go from 1 till 10, and then go from 10 till.
Oh my goodness.
how did you propose, Grandpa? Was it a formal?
I don't think it was really a formal proposal. We think we just assumed it, didn't we, dear?
No, we didn't. You did ask me,
Did I ask you?
yeah, but not on your knees.
Well, want me to?
No, no, it was. You remember the time that Grandpa gave me this ring,
Yes.
and that's when he got on his knees.
Oh.
You know something, David?
When was that?
It was on a Hanukkah that we had up here, and
Weren't you here?
Stephen was here.
I don't think I was here.
No.
Oh, Stephen was, and we had this group of family around us, and Grandpa said, what's that noise, honey? Is that your ear?
Yeah,
No.
Your hearing aid.
I don't know if it is.
I didn't hear anything.
it's a high pitch.
It's a high pitch.
It's okay.
Now it is. No, it's still there.
It's okay.
What could it be?
That's okay.
It's my baby.
Strange.
It's Marlena.
Anyway, he
Is it
said,
No.
I want to marry you, and would you like to marry me, or something of that order? And then he turned to Stephen and he said, would you give me permission to marry your mom? Stephen
And you
said
were
yes.
on one knee.
Yes, he was on his knees, and I
At
tell
that
you,
time,
I
not when
had.
we first.
Right, right.
And I tell you, I had no idea he got me this ring,
Which ring?
this one.
It's her diamond ring.
Oh.
Not the one that I got for the
See, but
60.
you know, this that you're doing might be interesting to some of the family, but it's going to be very boring to other people. It's going on much too long.
Oh, I
think.
know it is.
Don't you think so?
No, it's not.
Don't you think
It's
so?
all very important.
Linda, do you have any other questions? Oh, this is one of Linda's questions. If you were able to turn back the clock and go back to the time right when you guys first were married, would you do anything different?
I don't think so.
Well, I tell you what I would do. Honey, that's what I tip what I would do.
Go ahead, tell me.
Instead of having a house right away, or even when we retired right away, we did a lot of traveling, but I really love to be in the motorhome. I would like to travel without a house, without any kind of responsibilities, and just travel. And I would feel that would be very fulfilling to me. I love it, you know. It doesn't matter if I'm in the mountains or in the city, but just the changes.
What about you, Grandpa? Would you do anything different?
Well, I tell you what. I went into this radio store after I'd taken a test with the sheriff's department to repair their radios, and if I didn't buy the store, I still might be working for a sheriff's department. I also took a test to work for the post office at the time. You know, jobs were not easy to come by, but I bought this little radio store in Beverly Hills on Robertson Boulevard. The rent was $25 a month, and Mom would make me 3 sandwiches for lunch.
I used to give him
I had nothing to do except eat.
I give him his
And
his lunch in a shopping bag.
next door to the store was a fire station, and one of the fellows in there was a chess player, and I would arrange to go in and play chess with him. I had a young boy come in and help me for a couple hours so I could make service calls and stuff, And when I wasn't busy, I'd go and play chess with him. And most of the time, I was sitting around trying to figure out things to do and was just eating. And I got to be fairly
Heavy,
Yeah.
very heavy.
So what were you gonna do differently?
So what would you do differently, honey?
Huh? Oh, I don't know what I could have done differently.
Eat one less sandwich?
Eat
But
less
what would, honey,
sandwiches.
what would you want to do differently in your life?
Well, a couple of things. I would have liked to take a course in typing so I could type. I'm sorry I never did that because now I go,
Right?
yeah. But who knew that I was going to need, there was going to be computers, I was going to need to learn to type. You know.
What about particular advice for David and I? What advice do you have for us at this station of our lives?
To have a good sense of humor and not let things that may seem too serious to you to get you down. To learn to laugh off a lot of the things. And one thing is, we always make up before we go to bed at night. Yeah.
If we ever get angry.
Well, we get
We
angry
don't,
once in a
I
while.
said if we ever. We don't do it too often.
Not too often. Only once or twice a week.
And what
We don't
advice
even
do you have
dinner
for us,
party.
Grandma?
Huh?
What advice do you have for us?
I think that what Grandpa said is not to let life get you down is very wise advice because things that seem very heavy one day will be nothing the next. And if you just let things work themselves out, they work out, you know. So,
Well, you guys got such a wonderful start with those two girls.
3.
Three now,
girls,
yeah.
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 It's hard to think about that because we don't see your family
Yeah.
as 3 when you're down there. We
Yeah.
only see, we remember 2.
Right?
I know. It's the first time
Well,
in my
there's
life.
a real loud third one.
Loud, you say?
She's in your bedroom right now.
Is she crying?
Yeah, occasionally.
No, she's
You
doing
can
okay.
hear her?
Yeah,
She's asleep, I think.
She's sleeping and crying.
Any other questions, Linda?
Did we cover? I think
Yeah.
we covered everything.
Okay, give a
Yeah.
big kiss. Make out on screen.
That isn't hard.